Hey guys, Button25 here watching the launch of Starlink 5, I believe this is. I think I said Starlink 6 last time, but this is the 5th
Startup.
flight. Now that booster, as I said last time, or at least I tried to say last time, I believe, I don't know if I got it out in time for the interesting launch abort situation that happened there.
Go for launch.
That's the 5th flight of this booster, and it's the first booster to fly 5 times, and one of the, I don't know if the whole fairing assembly is reused or just one of the fairings, which flew on the first Starlink mission. The booster's last flight before this was Starlink 2. I cannot believe it was November. So about that, I think they are using the shorter mission profile that they trialed on Starlink 4.
10,
9, 8,
8,
7,
7,
6, 5,
5, 4,
3, 2,
2,
1.
1, 0.
Ignition. And liftoff of the Falcon 9. You can see she's much slower. You can see Falcon 9 is kind of much slower off the pad than she was in some previous launches because this is some of the heaviest payloads they have to lift. Because of the fact there's 60 tiny satellites up there. So even a small weight multiplied by 60 can add up. So of course Starlink is SpaceX's internet satellite constellation.
It's T plus 40 seconds and we've just had liftoff of our Falcon 9 vehicle, taking our Starlink payload to its targeted deployment orbit. We are now throttling down and throttling back up in preparation for max Q.
Well, throttling down,
here in about
max Q,
so.
throttle back up.
Max Q is the maximum aerodynamic pressure that the vehicle sees throughout ascent, so this is the largest structural load that the vehicle will see. Should hear that call out in about 5 seconds.
Maximum aerodynamic pressure.
I saw some weird fluctuations around the engine there.
And there's that call out for max Q, confirmation that we've just passed through max Q. Coming up in about a minute, we will have 3 events in rapid succession. The first of which being main engine cutoff, or what we call MECO. This is where all 9 of our M1D engines shut off.
Yeah, this is actually kind of post-recording because I missed the actual launch.
Which is stage separation. And that's
1633. Sorry, I'm just popping back here for a
pressure
second.
that the vehicle sees
further.
of our Falcon 9 vehicle, taking our Starlink payload to its targeted deployment orbit. We are now throttling down and throttling back up in preparation for max Q, which is coming up here in about 10 seconds or so. Max Q is the maximum aerodynamic pressure that the vehicle sees throughout ascent, so it's the largest.
That was just the vehicle passing through a cloud layer.
Down for the following event, which is stage separation, and that's when the first stage separates from the second stage. And then finally, the lighting of our second stage MVAC engine, which we call SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1. Now, if you've been following our Starlink missions, you know that we've reduced the number of burns on the second stage for these missions from 2 burns down to just 1 single burn. This allows the second stage to provide 70% of the velocity needed for this mission, which allows the first stage to use less fuel and thus making first stage recovery much easier. So today we will again only be doing 1 burn of that second stage engine. Again, coming up in about 10 seconds are those 3 events. MECO,
it looks almost like an RCS thruster flight.
SES-1.
MECO? Also apparently like
MECO 1.
There we go.
Separation confirmed.
And there we go. Second stage ignition.
And there we've
There's a
just
bit of
had
overexposure
MECO
off the
stage
camera
separation. That
of the
stage
second
separation
stage.
confirms the successful 5th use of our first stage booster. And you can see on your right screen that second stage MVAC engine lighting up and taking that second stage to its targeted orbit. We're just a few seconds away from fairing deploy. Again, this fairing was used once before on our very first Starlink mission.
There we go.
And there is the visual confirmation of fairing deploy.
Yeah, this camera's overexposed.
So this means that we've successfully reused this fairing. So now let's see if Miss Tree and Miss Chief can catch those fairing halves today. We likely won't have that live view since fairing touchdown will
Stage
happen
propulsion nominal.
past the conclusion of this morning's webcast, but stay tuned to our social media for updates later this morning.
Now the
Stage
reason I
shows on
mentioned
normal
the,
trajectory.
like what I thought was a bit of a discrepancy with the engines, is because apparently there was an engine failure on this. Which has happened before and it didn't affect the mission, like, because it was on the first stage, that's why there's 9 of them.
Acquisition of signal Bermuda.
Yes, of course, now, for those of you who've seen this, the first stage will coast back. There's an entry burn to slow it down. So there's no
For
boost
those of
back
you
burn
just
here,
joining
so
us,
the entry
good
burn will
morning
slow it
and
down.
welcome. We just had a successful liftoff of our Falcon 9 about 4 minutes ago. There's a lot going on right now. On the right-hand side of your screen, our second stage. It's Merlin vacuum engines.
don't use that
currently
camera
burning
angle,
and will
please.
Continue to do so for a few minutes. It's carrying 60 Starlink satellites for eventual payload deploy. But we're going to focus the next few minutes on the left-hand side of the screen with our first stage.
Indeed.
Currently, right now, after stage separation, that first stage is boosting, still gliding up without any engine power. It's hitting apogee just about now, and for the next few seconds, it's going to start to freefall down to the Earth's surface for an attempted first stage recovery on our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. As our first stage reorients itself, we're going to prepare for the first of 2 engine burns on that first stage.
The entry
to
burn
aid
is a
our
3
recovery.
engine burn, I
The
believe.
first of which is coming up in about 90 seconds. It's
That might
known as our
be just
entry burn.
one, so I
We
don't
fire
know.
3 of the
No,
9
so it is
Merlin
good.
engines in the opposite direction the way we're heading. We do this
Slow
in
you
order
down.
to slow down the vehicle about 25% before we hit the dense part of the atmosphere. Not
Reduce
performing this
aerodynamic
burn would
stresses.
put unnecessary strain on our first stage.
I don't think unnecessary is the best word for that. Undesired would be more, I think. Because you could fly through the atmosphere just normally, without using the entry burn, use that to slow it down, and that would allow you to use more of the first stage's fuel for the payload.
We're just at
However,
about T plus 6 minutes.
the entry burn also
We're
helps
a
get
little
it
more than
guided.
45 seconds away from that engine burn. It only lasts about 10 seconds.
because the stage is mostly empty, so it's
And
fairly
although our
light.
first stage only takes a few minutes to get from its apogee down to the Earth's surface, our 2 fairing halves takes much longer. Oh, please stay posted with our social media.
I
for
presume
updates
more
on the
drag,
deliveries.
things like that. Okay, just waiting for the entry burn to begin shortly. Why do they keep using that terrible camera angle? Not terrible camera angle, just the camera's way overexposed. Someone
We're about 15 seconds
made
away
a
from that
mistake in
entry
the setup.
burn. We're going to wait for that visual confirmation the burn started and call out that that engine burn was successful.
A bit of ice, I believe, there. Okay, entry burn's about to start, I think. You can kind of guess by the number of RCS firings now, and the grid from the
Stage
one.
1 engine burn startup.
There we go. There's a bit of
Stage 2
veering.
continues to follow nominal trajectory.
Oh, I think that was just the engines and the gimbling and all that. Just to get the vehicle oriented correctly. And there we go.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Our entry burn has just completed. The next step is our landing burn. It's about 90 seconds from now. In terms of velocity reduction,
There appears to be something
the
coming
remaining
out from the
velocity,
engines there.
The denser part of the atmosphere actually slows our Falcon 9 by 80%, and the landing burn achieves
Terminal
that
velocity and all that.
of reduction down to 0.
Okay, we're almost at the landing burn.
And although we're focused on first stage recovery at the moment, at T plus 9 minutes, a little bit less than that, our second stage, its engine will cut off. We'll then confirm it's in good orbit, and we'll then begin the preparations for payload deploy.
Starting terminal guidance.
We're about 10 seconds away from that landing burn call out. We'll sit tight and see if we can get any feed of that event.
There should at least be a feed from a drone ship. Hummingbird should have begun now.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
No word about the first stage yet. We're almost that second stage and then cut off.
We're still waiting on call-out and confirmation for that first stage, but that's our secondary mission. Right now we'll focus on our primary mission with that second stage and our Starlink satellites. We're waiting for that
There's
confirmation of
Seiko.
second engine cutoff.
We have Seco on.
We'll wait a bit until the coast has completed for Starlink deploy, because the vehicle kind of spins
Our
itself
cutoff
up.
has completed. We're now waiting for confirmation of good orbit before we begin payload deployment.
These Starlink launches almost always fly right over my house. Fortunately, it's both cloudy and daytime, so we wouldn't have been able to see it.
Expected loss of signal.
So we've achieved that good orbit for our
Expected
second
acquisition
stage,
of
but
signal
we're not in the
confirmed.
right position in that orbit yet. Second stage is now going to coast in this orbit for a few minutes. During this time, you're going to see the second stage is going to start to spin along its central axis. This gives the Starlink satellites the momentum they need to space themselves out over time after they deploy.
Because there's no
Think of it
proper
as if you were
explosive
hanging on the edge of
bolts.
a merry-go-round and you jumped off and it slings you out. We use this natural deployment, and it prevents us from having to install complex and heavy separation mechanisms.
It's
on
more
each
the heavy
satellite.
rather than
So while we wait
complex.
for that position to be achieved, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll return at T plus 13 minutes 45 seconds.
Okay, I'll just pause the video until the deploy. Okay guys, the webcast should be back in a few seconds.
Our first stage successfully separated from the second stage, but unfortunately we did get confirmation that we were not able to land that first stage today. We are obviously disappointed, but our primary mission on second stage is still on target to drop our Starlink satellites
Now
to their
let's watch
deployment
this.
orbit. One
Hopefully we
quick
get a
update,
video
as
of
many
the
of
whole
you
thing
know,
through.
we've been running a number of tests to reduce the reflectivity of these Starlink satellites on their way to orbit. The first of these tests involve using paint to darken portions of the satellite. Preliminary results show a notable reduction, but we have a couple other ideas that we think could reduce the reflectivity even further. The most promising being a sunshade that would operate in the same way as a patio umbrella or a sun visor, but for the satellite. The sunshade option is slated for a future Starlink launch, and all of these efforts are ongoing and will continue to report results back as we receive them.
Yep, once again, let's
We're now
just
coming
before deploy.
up on deployment of our Starlink satellites, so let's listen in for that call out. We should be able to
Scheduled
see
deployment.
separation live, so we'll
Well,
wait for that live view.
very soon.
Payload separation confirmed.
Just give it a few seconds here, because usually
So we did get
view come back.
confirmation of deployment,
Yep, there they go.
and there is that live view. So you can see on your screen the satellites are slowly separating away from the second stage, and over the next few weeks they will distance themselves from each other and eventually use their onboard ion thrusters to make their way to their final orbit.
And with that successful deployment, that brings our webcast to a close for today. To recap our mission, we had a successful liftoff of Falcon 9 from Kennedy Space Center at 8:16 a.m. Eastern Time. We had a successful separation of that first stage from the second stage. Unfortunately, we did not recover that first stage for another launch, but as you can see, 60 healthy and operational Starlink satellites are on their way to their intended orbits. It's definitely been an exciting launch today. We want to thank the 45th Space Wing for range safety and the FAA for licensing today's launch, and we'd also like to thank you, all of our viewers, for tuning in. Please follow our website and social media platforms for updates on our next missions and milestones. Until the next time, please take care and have a great day.
So yes, that was the launch of Starlink 5. There was apparently an engine failure during ascent. And on bottom 25, goodbye.